Today, we're talking all about sulfur. It's recently gained popularity, especially on TikTok, as a magical miracle acne treatment. However, it's far from new. It's an age-old treatment that's been used to treat various skin conditions. So I want to share with you guys how sulfur works, what conditions it's best for, and share some of my favorite sulfur-based products. Hi, my name is Dr. Jenny Liu. I'm a board-certified dermatologist, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you enjoy learning more about skincare-related contents, then I would love it if you can give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. So what is sulfur? Sulfur is actually a natural element, and in chemistry, if you still remember looking at the periodic table, sulfur is definitely on there somewhere, but it exists everywhere. It's inside of us, it's found in rocks and minerals, especially around volcanic areas. Now, when it comes to our body, as far as like our skin, hair, and nails, sulfur is definitely found on our skin, but really gives our hair kind of that structural integrity. You probably have heard of like the disulfide bonds. That is basically bonds created between two sulfur molecules. So it is everywhere within us. It is a part of our DNA. Now, naturally, sulfur itself is non-metallic and kind of takes on this pale yellow hue. And certainly you can find sulfur in lots of skincare products these days, as well as prescription products that I actually write to patients on a regular basis. So what are some of the benefits of sulfur? First and foremost, sulfur does have some mild exfoliating properties. Now, certainly I would not use a sulfur-based product as like equivalent of an chemical exfoliant like glycolic acid, but it does offer some properties which can be beneficial in certain settings. Two, sulfur has great antifungal and antimicrobial properties, which is why it is being used predominantly to help with acne. It helps to reduce the acne-causing bacteria that lives on our skin, and also indirectly has some anti-inflammatory properties. So in very similar ways, not the same mechanism, but is similar to benzoyl peroxide and how it works for targeting acne. So together with the mild keratolytic as well as anti-inflammatory and antimicrobial properties, predominantly sulfur has been used for treatment of acne. And then as a dermatologist, one of my favorite ways of using sulfur is for rosacea, for individuals with more inflammatory, like those acne-like bumps on the face. I really love sulfur for that. Now, due to the antimicrobial benefits, sulfur has been reported, not as much, but can be used in the setting of dandruff, but certainly there's not that many products out there for dandruff, and I don't think it's my personal go-to for treating dandruff, just because we need more studies, but also there's a lot better yeast-fighting ingredients that exist on the market, but certainly it can be used for that. So what are some of the uses for sulfur? First and foremost is probably acne. As I mentioned earlier, the antimicrobial and anti-inflammatory as well as mild keratolytic benefits really make sulfur a great ingredient in fighting acne. Really great for those inflammatory acne zits. So those red zits that pop up, not so much for clogged pores because the keratolytic effects are mild. It's definitely not as helpful as salicylic acid or a topical retinoid in helping with pore congestion, blackheads, and whiteheads. But it's great for if you have like a red inflamed zit that just popped up and you want to spot treat it. That is one of my favorite ways of using sulfur. Similarly to how I would use benzoyl peroxide. Now keep in mind, because irritation is often the limiting factor, just like benzoyl peroxide, you really want to be careful with kind of how extensive you use it. Depending on the product, some you may be able to use it more widespread as more of like a treatment and prevention, but really one of my personal favorite ways, as I mentioned, is really to spot treat, to really target individual zits, thereby treating them, but also at the same time reducing the risk of irritation. For those individuals who are not able to tolerate benzoyl peroxide because irritation, but also some people might actually have true allergies to benzoyl peroxide, or just find that benzoyl peroxide is really destructive on their fabric, towels, pillowcases, sulfur could be a great alternative. Now, because sulfur can also be irritating, it's one of those things where you just have to see. But in general, I do find that for individuals who are not as able to tolerate benzoyl peroxide, sulfur would be a better alternative, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't come with irritation. And just remember, because even though sulfur is great, it still lacks data compared to benzoyl peroxide. So certainly is not the first couple that I recommend. And I think there's even more evidence for salicylic acid than sulfur. But certainly it's something great to have as an additional treatment. Or say if you've tried those and hasn't worked well for you for some reason, then this would be a good alternative to incorporate into your routine. But sulfur isn't like off the bat the first thing that I would recommend to patients. The next condition that I actually most commonly use sulfur for prescription-wise is for inflammatory rosacea. So not for so much the redness, but the inflammatory bumps, or what people used to call adult acne if you do have rosacea. I love sulfur for that. And there is a prescription, in particular a sulfacetamide wash, a cleanser that is a sulfur derivative that I really love it for treatment of that. And even though it has a particular unique scent, not the most pleasant, it actually is really great at reducing the inflammation from that type of rosacea. And in patients with rosacea, because their skin is already pretty sensitive, I find that most people respond to sulfur better with the antimicrobial and anti-inflammatory benefits than benzoyl peroxide. So when I see an individual who have that type of rosacea with a lot of those inflammatory bumps, that is certainly one thing that I often will prescribe that works really well in those patients. The only thing is that I just wish there were more non-prescription over-the-counter sulfur-based cleansers. There aren't that many on the market. There are a lot that are formulated in a mask, which you can certainly use like a cleanser, but contact time would be much shorter than you would otherwise use as a mask, but that would be like a good alternative. Otherwise, the sulfacetamide cleanser is unfortunately a prescription. Less common uses of it that has been described in literature, but personally it really doesn't, I don't do a lot of it in clinic. I very seldomly recommend would be for treatment of other inflammatory conditions like psoriasis or eczema. And theoretically, I can see that because of the anti-inflammatory benefits, but certainly there are a lot better medications for treatment of psoriasis and eczema. So that's not something that I really use at all, if any, but certainly if you read up on sulfur, that have been reported as potential uses. And then lastly, in the setting of treating dandruff, as I mentioned, certainly because of the antimicrobial benefits, it could help with malassezia yeast. The problem is I'm not aware of that many sulfur-based shampoos because of the particular odor. I think it may be actually hard to formulate. And also, if you were to use any skincare products for the skin on your scalp for dandruff, the formula may not be the most aesthetically pleasant for your hair. So even though it is a possibility, I think unless there exists a sulfur-based shampoo, which I'm not aware of, certainly if you are, definitely let me know in the comments below because I want to look into it. But that is one of the theoretical uses that could have for sulfur in treating dandruff. So if you're interested in looking or incorporating sulfur-based product for your acne or rosacea, what should you be looking for when it comes to what's available over the counter without a prescription? First of all, understand that in general, the concentration of sulfur that exists in skincare usually is anywhere between like 3 to 10%. And most of the time, they're often found in masks, lotions, creams, spot treatments, and less so cleansers. But those usually are kind of the formula and the percentages that you want to be looking for. And certainly, you know, the higher the percentage, the potential, the higher risk of irritation. And then similarly, cleansers are going to be less irritating than leave-on treatments. But at the end of the day, you want to just make sure that if you have sensitive skin, looking for sulfur as an alternative treatment, you want to test on your skin first before you use it all over your face. But very similar, like side effects would be dryness, irritation, peeling of the skin, similar to what you would find with benzoyl peroxide. But because it doesn't have the oxidative process that benzoyl peroxide really works through in targeting acne, it's not going to bleach your fabric. So that's one of the benefits. So what are some sulfur-based products that I recommend? Well, first of all, I can't talk about sulfur without talking about the viral De La Cruz acne treatment with 10% sulfur. Been seeing this literally all over TikTok. And I think certainly it's good for a few reasons. Number one, it's super affordable. It does contain 10% sulfur, which is of the higher concentration. And essentially, it's kind of in this creamy ointment-like base that you apply on your skin and you use it as a mask. Leave it on for like 10 minutes and then rinse off. And like any sulfur mask that you can find with like, you know, Kate Somerville, Glytone, other brands, certainly helps to reduce inflammation, acne fighting bacteria, and over time with use can improve acne. I think the benefit of masks in general for treatments like this, whether it's benzoyl peroxide or sulfur, is just that you definitely have the contact time that's there, but not long enough that's going to cause irritation, but enough to work. And then you can certainly use it with kind of the formula. It's very easy to apply. It's oil free, but like water washable base that you can literally dot on like particular spots if you want to treat particular spots, or all over your face or particular areas of your face. So I think there's lots of different ways you can use this product. So I think for the price and with the formula, it certainly can be helpful. The one thing you want to keep in mind is that in general, like sulfur, like I said, all over can be irritating. So if you have sensitive skin, you may want to like test on a pimple first before you apply it all over your face. So overall, I think this is a great product, especially for the price and with the formula. However, if you do research on this product, you may stumble across, especially on the brand's website, talking about polyethylene glycol listed as an active ingredient. And speaking a little bit to that, and you may be wondering, like, why are they even mentioning this? Well, polyethylene glycol is actually a derivative from petrolatum, and for skincare use, essentially is a base to dissolve other active ingredients into, and that is what it is intended here. It actually dissolves the sulfur powder into the polyethylene glycol. It is 100% safe. It can cause irritation, and in some cases, rarely, have been reported to cause allergic contact dermatitis. And how you would note the difference, aside from just true irritation from sulfur, is that your skin, aside from just getting dry and irritated where you put the product, may actually get really swollen, puffy, very itchy. Usually those are signs of basically bad eczema, allergic contact dermatitis. Maybe very swollen. That rash may expand beyond to other places of your skin where you may not have initially put the mask on. So if you are experiencing that, then chances are you could be allergic to polyethylene glycol. Then you certainly would want to stop the product and see a dermatologist. Otherwise, I think, like I said, this is a really good one to use, and that allergic reaction is fairly rare but can happen. And so testing it is not guaranteed, but testing it on your skin beforehand can certainly be helpful, especially if you do have a history of allergic contact dermatitis. So like benzoyl peroxide, one of my favorite ways of using sulfur is in a cleanser. And even though the prescription cleanser, usually 10% is what I recommend, sometimes insurance just don't like to cover that. So one cleanser that I actually really love, because sulfur-based cleansers are actually hard to find, this one is great. It comes from Kate Somerville. It's Eradicate 3% Daily Foaming Cleanser that is really lovely, as the name implies, contains 3% sulfur, which is on the lower concentration, but still a great alternative to prescription sulfacetamide cleanser. And also it's in this whipped texture that's hydrating and contains ingredients like natural oat extract, as well as like rice and honey. That's going to be more soothing to kind of combat the irritation of sulfur. And in this cleanser, you can leave it on for a few minutes like you would with a benzoyl peroxide wash, and then rinse it off. And with the formula, it's great for acne as a benzoyl peroxide alternative, or if you struggle with inflammatory rosacea and somehow can't see a dermatologist, or if the prescription 10% sulfacetamide wash isn't covered, this would be a really nice one to use. Now, certainly at $44, it is a little bit pricey, but a great one to try if you're looking for a sulfur-based cleanser. Now, if you have more oily, combination skin, struggle with acne, or have acne on the body and looking for like a treatment mask, another one that I really recommend is from Peter Thomas Roth, Therapeutic Sulfur Acne Mask. And this one is great for those with more oily combination skin, because aside from the 10% sulfur, it also contains hyaluronate and bentonite clay that really helps to suck up some of the surface sebum and temporarily reduce surface shine. And at the same time, with that sulfur, helps to fight acne and inflammation. In general, if you're using a sulfur mask, I don't recommend using it more than like twice a week. I think that is definitely sufficient anymore, it's gonna cause irritation. And also going back to what I said earlier, sulfur is one of those things that are really nice to have as a good alternative, but shouldn't be your first line for acne treatment. So if you're already on like adapalene or prescription medications and wanting something a little extra that may help better improve your acne, I think this would be a nice one to incorporate. And it also has some mild exfoliating properties, and so great for, like I said, temporarily reducing shine, maybe helping with clogged pores. And then you can also use it on your body as well and use that a few times a week to overall improve acne, and it can be a great like complement to a well-established acne routine. And if you're looking for a sulfur-based leave-on treatment or spot treatment, one of my personal favorites that I've actually talked about in my previous video is from Vichy, the Normaderm SOS Acne Rescue Spot Corrector that contains 10% sulfur along with glycolic acid and niacinamide that can work together to not only target acne, but also find it to be fairly gentle, lightweight, and fast absorbing that can be used on a more widespread basis and not as irritating as some of the other spot treatment sulfur products that I personally have tried in the past. So it's a great one if you have either a pimple that you want to dry up fairly quickly that you can just dot out to spot treat, or say like apply to particular areas that you struggle a little bit more with acne, that can also at the same time treat acne, maybe prevent acne, and certainly help to reduce some of that post-acne marks as well. Alright guys, so that is my little spiel on sulfur, some of the uses I like it for, as well as my recommended products. In general, as I said, sulfur can be a great complement to a pre-existing acne routine to provide additional benefits, or as an alternative to benzoyl peroxide if you cannot use benzoyl peroxide for whatever reason. But I certainly don't recommend using sulfur as your first line treatment for, especially in particular for treating acne. I will link everything below in the captions. Let me know if you have any questions about sulfur, its uses, as well as products. And certainly if you've tried the viral De La Cruz sulfur ointment treatment, let me know how well it's worked for you. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.